The paranormal. Where do we start?
Surely we should introduce ourselves first.
I mean, we can do. Would you like to explain what we're doing?
Hello guys, welcome to Linear Random.
Linear Random.
The podcast where nothing makes sense.
That may be the case, but today we have a topic in mind for our first episode. The paranormal.
Yes. I'm not sure what we've got in mind for it.
Anarita, what is the most spookiest thing to have ever happened to you that cannot be explained using science or facts?
Well, it's kind of a somewhat personal one, but once when I was upset with my uncle, there was a gift that he'd given us, a snow globe.
I remember this. Go on.
Yeah, that got smashed into smithereens on the floor. We found it later. Neither of us can account for it. Neither of us was near it, despite the fact that we didn't even have a cat at the time, so we can't even blame it on Millie.
Yeah, true.
So
that was quite spooky because what happened was we'd gone over for a family dinner, and the family,
without going into too much detail,
the family dinner was a bit of a train wreck, and I basically ended up with a lot of people going, I'm never going to talk to one person again for at least a while. And then I think I'd actually sent a message to that person saying I'm not happy in response to something. And then, like, the following day, just smash. We just walked into the room and it just smashed and somehow hit the floor. Despite being clearly, it was family.
Closed.
Family on a shelf, in the center of a shelf.
Windows closed. Nothing near it except for paper. Yeah, that was spooky.
Okay, that's the spookiest thing that's happened to you.
That is, I know from other people, I've heard other stories, but my personal experience, that is the spookiest thing that's ever happened to me.
So I have, unfortunately, because I've told you these stories, these won't be new to you, but I have had two experiences which I would say verge on the spooktacular. The first one was when I was about 8. I used to do something called, it wasn't the Scouts, it was like the more friendly version of the Scouts, if you could believe it. A bit less molestation, essentially. Just a bit less. It was called the Woodcraft Folk. It was organised with some great people, but it was a very, like, we're the Scouts, but we're very Christian. And they used to make us do these big walks, essentially. We do walks for charity. Now, I'm not sure why my mum ever bought into it, because I'm pretty sure she never really believed in that stuff. But she made me and my sisters sometimes do these together. And we'd go off and do these big walks, just walk for like an entire day in a direction with a cross on our backs or something. It was quite an interesting experience now.
With a cross on your backs?
Well, I helped carry a big crucifix.
Was it supposed to be symbolic of like Jesus'
so.
journey or something?
Do you know what, if I had to hazard a guess, this experience probably took around Easter, so maybe?
So it was probably something to do with that. Okay.
So anyway, I spend a whole day walking with this big ass crucifix. I was one of the taller people even back then, on my back. And we get to this hotel. It's in the middle of the woods. And it's quite big. It used to be some sort of estate, because it could easily house at least like the 30 odd people who were part of this big walk we did. And my sister's there. And the kids are all split off into like dormitories. Mm-hmm. We don't have our own rooms. It's just a big set of rooms all split together. But that's not the scary thing. As scary as it is sharing bedroom facilities with another person, no, the scariest thing was the attic. They had a games room, essentially, an attic that had just been emptied out. They'd stored some naff lights at the top of it, some sheet wood on the floor, and put like a pool table, a really rubbish old black and white TV, a darts board, and it was all just up there, and it was great. As a kid, you love this shit. It's amazing. You have the best time. But there was one problem with that room, and that was because it was not a proper room and it had just been converted poorly. The only light from that room was from the 2 light bulbs that are hanging up, and the light switch for the room was right next to the door. So other little shits, not me, was a good boy. Other little shits would come in and they would just quickly flip the lights off and then run away, knowing that it would take the rest of us at least like 30 or 45 seconds to walk our way through the dark to the door, get to the light switch and pick it on.
And everyone knows that's when the boogeyman comes out from under your bed to get you.
So, for me, it was a bit more bizarre than that. I was near the door because I think I gotten fed up with all this shenanigans, this weird nonsense. And I was getting ready for this to happen. Lo and behold, kid jumps up, switches the light off. I immediately yell to everyone in the pitch black, "Don't worry, I've got this." I switch the light. In that split second of the light switching on, I saw what I'm almost certain I saw someone's face right in front of me. It was like a white visage. It was definitely a woman's face, and an actual white visage, unkept hair, and it was just right in front of my face. And it freaked me out, especially since when the lights came on, I was facing a brick wall directly next to my nose.
Oh, interesting.
I left.
And there were no pictures hanging on the wall or anything.
No pictures. No nothing. I left the attic after that. Went for my sister. My sister and I had a very love-hate relationship growing up. I would annoy her and she would throw a log at me and give me a black eye. So that's the sort of relationship we had. But she said that she was like so close to just yelling at me to leave her alone. But when she saw how pale I was, she actually thought something was wrong. And that was the first and only real properly spook incident I ever had. Because I can't explain why I saw a ghost. Well, I'm going to say a ghost right there.
I imagine most of us would be quite spooked if they saw someone even if it was a real person. Imagine there's no supernatural forces, which I guess we don't really know if there are. Yeah. But if there were no supernatural guesses here, like if you're switching a light on and someone is right in your face, I think that would be quite a spooky situation.
It's kind of like that thing where they say it's like clowns aren't all that scary, but if a clown were to be in an alleyway at 3 a.m. and jump out at you, you would probably be quite scared of it.
Well, I think the thing about clowns is that it's not the fact that like it's fancy dress and all that. It's the fact that it's a real person behind that mask. I mean, you're not looking at a clown thinking it's like, I don't know, some sort of mythical creature. It's an actual human being.
Well, they hide underneath that mask.
You don't know what mental state they might be in.
You've got to be a pretty messed up person to be a clown, let's be honest.
I don't know. I mean, primarily you're just there to entertain.
All clowns.
Generalizing all clowns are messed up.
I will come out and say it. All clowns are messed up. I'm talking circus clowns all the way to those like hospital clowns that turn up to cheer up the kids. All of them. Dead straight psychopaths, okay? You can't trust none of them.
Well, I guess that's our clown-based audience gone.
All 3 of the clowns that listen to us, 2 of them have signed off, and that one clown with the machete is like, I'm coming.
I'm coming for you.
Oh, God. On the subject of clowns, do you remember a couple of years back when there was, like, clown hysteria? Like, around when the It movie was remade?
Yeah, I think it was purposeful, though. I think there was a point to it. I think it was to advertise.
I thought it was all advertising, but it turns out there's, like, so much stuff was just not... It was just around that time the world just went nuts with clowns.
Well, all you need is, like, one instance of, like, advertising for it. And it's like the whole Salem thing. It's mass hysteria. All you need is one person to like...
Well, why didn't they just...
I'm being chased by a clown. Suddenly everyone's been chased by clowns.
Well, it's funny they know about the red balloon and suddenly they're never chased by red balloons.
Well, everyone knows...
Prince Albert in a can.
Everyone knows Stephen King is like still trying to make balloons scary.
I would say he's achieved that. It's corny struggling with.
I suppose.
But yeah, the second spooky time I think you definitely remember is because we were together by this point, and it was bizarre enough. It's a weird one because most spooky times, most spook events, as I'm going to call them, the spooks.
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about. I'm not sure if that qualifies as supernatural because that was an actual person.
But
if
was
it is the instance that I think.
Okay, so I'll describe it to you, and you tell me whether or not you still think it's supernatural. So, I was leaving work. It was the middle of summer. I worked for a company which name redacted. In the redacted area, and it was basically in the countryside.
It was fairly late. I think it's the latest you've ever stayed at the office that I can remember.
I remember it being quite sunny when I left. Still, anyway, with this place we work at is in the middle of nowhere. It's about a 20-minute walk to the local town. I think had already left, or
I was home by this point.
I would decide I was going to walk because I was going to swing past the gym I was going to, which is in like the opposite direction of our home. So I was leaving the office, and to save time, there is a path that goes across a river which lets you get close to where the gym is. But to do it, you have to walk through a field, some woods.
Yeah, it's like a woodsy area, and there's like a bridge and a sort of
no lights, no nothing.
River, not river. Yeah, river.
It's a river. It's not a very big river. That bridge is. That bridge only crosses like part of it because there's like an island and then another bridge.
Yeah.
So I'm walking down this road, and I get to the sort of first turning. Oh, another thing important about the road is once you start walking down it, there's no like routes off of it. You have to keep going to the other end,
or you
turn
turn
around.
Back, or you go forward.
It's a classic scenario set. So it's quite sunny, but I'm the only person on this route as far as I can see. I start walking. I get to the first turning, and there's something like catches in the peripheral of my eyes. I'm turning to the left to go around a bend, and I see someone standing at the entrance to the path, and they're in like a white business shirt, but it's unkept. I would assume this would be like it's not tucked in or anything. I assumed it was like a child, but then like it occurred to me they were really tall for a child, so they must be like an adult or like fairly, like a teenager or something. And I don't know what it is, but like the hackles, is it hackles? The hair on the back of my neck, just sort of stood up. And I noticed that they weren't moving. And what was weird about the experience is, we've all seen someone standing still, right? But it's really weird to see someone stand totally still. Because even when you're standing still, like you're leaning on one leg more than another, you've got loads of micro movements. But this person was like dead still. And I thought for a moment it might be like they recognized me. They might be someone from the office. So I waved at that person. But nothing. No response whatsoever.
And it's especially scary when they're staring right at you, like completely still staring at you, like
I could see it was the problem is because I have poor eyesight. I could definitely, exactly. I could definitely hashtag glass wearers. I could definitely see that he was facing towards me, but he wasn't doing anything. So I saw this, waved, saw there was no response, and decided, okay, I'm just going to move on and leave him. So I left. I left.
So, bearing in mind, he was in front of you, so you would
No. I turned around to look at him. He was behind me at the entrance to the
park.
park.
Okay, so he was behind you.
Yeah.
Did you feel something to turn around, or?
It was just, so when you're taking a left, you naturally turn your head, and in peripheral my vision, I just spotted this thing.
In your peripheral vision.
This person, and I decided to just take a look. So after that, I kept walking. Now, to get to that turn is about a good 7-minute walk. Like, if you're running, because I've run that route before, you could maybe do it in about 3. But if you're just walking, it's about 7 minutes to get it to that point. So I walk down this bend, keep walking, get to the next corner, and just because I was a little bit nervous for some reason, this guy just standing there weirdly, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I turned, and there he was. Now, the distance between...
Still behind you.
He had made the corner exactly where I'd stopped to look at him previously, and I turned around. He was right there. He must have aced that full pelt to have caught up. Like, within 3 minutes, the 3 minutes it taken me to get to the next turning, he was already at the place I'd last seen him. But I still couldn't make out his face, and he was still standing perfectly still, facing towards me.
Was he wearing a hood or anything?
No.
Set the scene for us.
It's really sunny.
So it was literally just a shirt that wasn't tucked in.
Office shirt, not tucked in. Like I said, my eyesight's bad, so I can't see particularly well. But I couldn't make out any, like, facial features. He was just standing there, and I could tell he was looking at me. And that in itself is freaky, but the fact that I know he must have dead sprinted to have caught up to my position, like, that freaked me out. Like, I was so screwed up. I started decreasing my pace. I started going into a jog. I almost was, like, running. I swear, I heard footprints behind me. Like, stamping behind
Footsteps.
me. Yeah. But when I turned around, didn't see anything. Now, that was the end of the encounter. I wish there was a bigger climax than that. But that was it. I never saw this person. I got across and I got out of there flying. But then I told you about this encounter and you think you saw this person.
Well, I don't know. I don't really remember saying that. Yeah, apparently I told you that I'd seen him out of the window or something.
I told you. You were, like, freaked out more on my behalf
than
I was by this point. Because I was feeling rather silly with myself. And then I remember you distinctly saying that you looked out the window and I was like, I think I just saw someone like that walking up our street.
I genuinely don't remember, but there must be a guy telling his wife about
the weirdo
who kept stopping in front of him as he was making his way home and looking straight at him.
He didn't realize it, but I have this phobia of people staring at me, so I just
stood stock still and waited for him to turn back around and carry on his way.
Exactly. It's a big misunderstanding. He's just a marathon runner, but he forgot his gear, so he runs in an office suit that he had.
There's a long line of people behind him that are spookily, walking.
He lives trapped between worlds. He can't move forward because there's a person in front of him. He can't move backwards because there's people behind him. Oh, that's the real horror right there. But the thing is, one thing I'll give a little more credence to is people have died near that area. Because
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've walked that area before. That is
scary.
It's not.
I don't know if people have died on that exact lane, but nearby on that stretch of road, if you walk directly from work to the town, there is really, really poor lighting. And about a year before I joined the company, some guy was walking there late at night. A car veered off the road.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Knocked the guy flying over the little brick wall and into the wooded area nearby. And apparently he was he bled to death over 24 hours. No one could find him or hear his cries because he was just in the darkness of the woods.
And the car, I guess, just kept on driving.
As far as I'm aware, no one found the car either. The car just zoomed off, hit and run.
Oh,
that's the spook. Anyway, those are my two spooky encounters.
Well, again, I still say that doesn't really count as super... I mean, it's a spooky story, don't get me wrong, it still counts. But, I don't think that counts as supernatural, is what I'm saying. Because I don't think... I think that's just a real...
How did he make that run in such a short amount of time?
He obviously ran.
But without looking like he was out of breath.
Well, I don't know.
Explain that, America.
Okay, there goes our American audience.
Explain it.
I think there's something extra spooky, which is why clowns scare me, despite the fact that my mum decided that... So every one of my sisters had a thing, collection of sorts. Okay. And my mum decided, without my input, because I was a kid, I'm not even sure I could speak at that point.
This is not even a Portuguese thing, this is just your mum thing.
No, this is just my mum thing.
Yeah.
And my mum decided that my collection was going to be clowns, so there's many, clown dolls and pictures of clowns and clown things in my bedroom. So, yeah, I think there's something extra spooky about real people.
Do you want to say
real spooks.
Do you want to say the thing about your sister and how your mum serified her with a doll? You don't remember this, do you?
No.
Okay, I'm going to come in there.
So, I mean, all of my mum's dolls are terrifying.
This one in particular. So, your mum took us to Portugal, and was out of the house for like a week or so, and I think she asked your sister to come in and check on the place while she was gone. And whilst she was, as you said, your mum collects dolls, and there are dolls all over the house. They are kind of terrifying, but at some point, your sister went over, checked on the place, came back, and a doll had been placed on the sofa in between the time she'd been over and came back, and it was like an Annabelle situation, and she screamed. At least this is what she said. She screamed. And it turns out that like one of your mum's friends had also been over, and your mum had asked her to move the doll on purpose.
I can't remember if that's how the story goes, but yeah, there was some sort of story like that where my sister or someone found a doll on the sofa, and it was they were quite spooked by it.
Or maybe your mum just lied to make your sister feel better and was like, the doll just moved on itself.
I don't think that's the case. My dad had a thing where he would put a doll that was supposed to be symbolic of him and my mum on the bed. When my mum made the bed, he would put them, and sometimes the dolls would have like little post-it notes with messages on them.
That's so creepy.
Well, is it creepy or is it sweet?
No,
it's creepy.
It's creepy. No, it's no hesitation there. It's fairly creepy.
So in Portugal, there's a couple of different stories that I've heard of, like folk tales kind of thing.
Go on.
So one that doesn't have, well, at least that I know of, it doesn't have much of a story behind it. It's just my nan used to warn first my dad when he was little, and then me, about some entity called Seven Teeth.
Oh boy. Oh no.
That would come and get you if you didn't eat all your food, or if you didn't do as you're told.
This is like the advanced version of the children are dying in Africa thing. It's like, I'm gonna steal your teeth!
Something like that. I wish I'd asked my dad at the time, because it would have been funny to know what his vision of... Because the way I interpreted it was an old guy, just an old tramp or something, with like 7 teeth, and that's it.
What, she would just turn up and like...
And he would just turn up out of nowhere and just do something. God knows what.
It would be horrific, it was what he'd do.
God knows what. But
nobody's lived to tell the tale.
I've no idea what my dad had interpreted him as, but yeah,
that
it
stuff
was
to me is like fascinating, because in the UK we're a country of overpopulated and franchised ghosts. Like everyone knows about the Conjuring ghosts, or
everything is worth making profit off of.
The Wolfman. But it's interesting how certain stories like that are, like, you try to think of unique stories for other cultures and stuff, and you start realizing that a lot of stories are really, really similar. Like the Wolfman, there's a lot of truth to like the origin of that story coming from places like India, and it was like brought back to the UK through like colonialism or trade, and how that's been around. But like vampirism, every culture in the world has a story
some sort of,
about vampires in some way.
Or werewolves.
Yeah.
We all know that I have a werewolf in the family. Oh my god.
Hey, I'm
having flashbacks to school.
I wasn't going to segue there, but now you need to tell the story.
Yours truly made the mistake of, for religious education, they asked us to bring in a story of any sort of supernatural, paranormal,
probably like a cute show and tell thing with
something like
tell
that.
us something about the supernatural.
Unfortunately, I didn't have anything, but I had recently heard of a story in my family that we might potentially, there might have been a werewolf in our family.
I like him blood.
And obviously, as
Does
kids,
Resident Evil 8 appeal to you in lots of ways?
As kids will often do, Resident Evil 8.
Yeah.
As kids will often do, I was werewolf girl for a few years.
Okay, as bad as that may be, I once referred to myself as the Joker, as like these are all my friends, and I'm the Joker of the group. Just call me that. It did not catch on, and I was so cringed about that experience. To this day, I'm cringing right now about it, actually.
I can imagine. If you hear a cat at any point during the recording, by the way, that is Millie. Say hello.
Millie is just being a real spook. She's running around.
She's the spookiest of them all.
Yeah, she'll sit and look at a wall for half an hour and probably scare off the ghosts. Come on, Millie, you can come up here if you want. But yeah, it's interesting, like how certain legends are kind of like not unique at all and super common. The ones that are unique though are super interesting. Like there's one in Indonesia where it's about a witch. It's kind of a sort of version of the vampire, essentially. But here's how it goes: a witch, this witch or creature in Indonesia, what happens is it's like a normal woman during the day, sometimes beautiful, sometimes ugly. But the weird stuff happens at night, where her head will, this tail just hitting the microphone, her head will detach from the body, all her organs and spine will go off from where the head used to be, and the head and all these organs will float around in the middle of the night, looking for pregnant women, and then they'll suck out the baby and eat it.
Sounds delicious and terrifying for any pregnant woman listening ever in all of the world.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's messed up. That's taking.
Well,
that's the reinvention Hollywood needs. Okay.
Well, no.
I don't want vampires anymore. I want headless women running around sucking out babies out of pregnant stomachs.
The thing is, we all know that folklore fairy tales all have like really dark origins. I mean, look at the Brothers Grimm. Like, yeah, Disney turned it all into like nice fairy tales, but all the original stories, like, I mean, Rapunzel was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's messed up stuff.
Yeah, true. I think some of those still have it in mind, though. Like, at least they've been mined in, like, Irish and English movies. I don't think they've been mined yet by Hollywood properly. So, like, there's a story that's kind of legendary in the UK, because not only did this, it's a famous folktale, but it led to an actual murder. So there is the legend of the changeling.
Mm.
And the idea is there are certain places that you just don't go in the country. And these are like special groves that the Fae live in. And the Fae don't like humanity because we build iron and other stuff which the Fae don't like. So what they do is to torment us. They will sometimes, in the middle of the night, if you're not paying any attention, they will try and steal your baby or child and replace it with
a fake one.
A Fae child. And the idea is if the child gets brought up, it'll become like some sort of monster or psychopath in the human world. And the child that was stolen will become a Fae creature that is kept in our world. And there's supposedly the only ways to solve this is you have to threaten she's going to try and destroy
She's going to try and steal.
She found the cat treats.
She found the cat treats.
Okay,
hold on.
So, the legend goes that the only way to stop this from happening and get your baby back is to figure out a way to get the real parents of the Fae creature to come and collect their child and give yours back. Because they still love their child, even if they're going to let them grow up in a human world and become a monster and kill people. So the only way to hurt or harm Fae creatures and essentially threaten them is through fire or iron. So you can see how this can lead to
human inventions kind of thing.
So you can sort of see how this can end up really, really bad. And back in like the early 20th century, there was a case of a couple in, I want to say it's like Sussex or Surrey, where what they did was at least the father became convinced that his child had been kidnapped and replaced by a Fae creature. So he got a red hot iron poker and essentially killed his child, believing that if he did this, the Fae creature would return his real child, but that never happened. And then I think there were even like special laws put in place to protect people against stuff like this happening in the future. But yeah, that's like a legend that hasn't. I feel like Hollywood is kind of looked at, but is not really adopted into like the mainstream. I know a lot of Irish movies that have done stuff like this. The Hole, I think, is a pretty good one. I would recommend that as a watch. But like certain like folktale stories like that don't get enough. They need their press, okay? Because that's just terrifying.
Well, the other one that I have that I've also heard from my nan.
Is this the same nan who saw witches?
No. My nan, as in.
Oh, your nanny, not your grandma.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that's still with us. Jesus Christ, cat. Use the treats. She's hooked on them. She's like Indiana Jones jumping around. She's parkouring around to get those treats. She's gonna go again.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. We may have to cut that out.
Oh, this is all staying in.
It's all staying in. Yeah, so the story, she didn't give me a lot of detail, but I've since researched it, so I have a few different versions to go in with. The story as it goes is literally just apparently people hear a seamstress in the wall.
I loosely remember you mentioning this
in
to
the
me.
wall of their houses. Basically, they hear one of those old
sewing machines.
They hear the tick tack tick tack of the pedal, and they hear scissors cutting the line. Sometimes they even hear the line breaking. All that stuff, all that good stuff. There's different versions of the story. They all basically end the same way. The seamstress is paying for her sins by sewing with the machine till the end of her days.
Do they ever explain why she's sewing, or just
there's different there's different versions of. So the simplest version is she would sew while she was alive. She would sew on a Sunday, which everyone knows.
It's a sin. No work can take place on a Sunday.
It's the day of rest. It's a holy day.
When are we recording this? On a Sunday.
That's a good point. Oh dear. We'll be recording to the end of our days.
You're gonna be in your house, it'll be dead silence, and you'll just hear linear random here. Can I have you a new podcast episode? The horror.
But yeah, so that was the simplest version that I found. Other than that, there's a version where it's a mother who was sewing a wedding dress for her daughter. There's also a version where the daughter was sewing a wedding dress for herself, and the daughter died before the wedding could take place. And
it kind of feels like a variation of the Woman in White sort of legend.
Either the mother of the bride or the bride herself, in death, continued to sew the wedding dress. There's another version where a lady, a seamstress, promised a deity.
God.
Not God.
Like Rumpelstiltskin?
No.
We go Once Upon a Time territory?
No. Our Lady.
Oh, a saint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of. She promised her to sew a quilt, a big quilt, but never delivered. So in death, she continues to sew the quilt.
Oh my goodness.
There's...
Forget the La Llorona, the La Streamster.
Seamstress.
That's what I want to hear. Oh, the movie I want to see. See, you got like vague concepts like this. You could actually do a lot with them to make them like super scary. Like the one I like that people have kind of used the most in recent years is the Baba Yaga. Like, the whole thing about the witch who abducts children, and she's just, like, this horrible Slavic witch, and it's kind of, like, also hilarious at the same time. Which is, like, the whole thing is she's a witch that abducts children, but it's everything around her that's more interesting. She lives on top of a porter and pestle, which is that stuff used to grind herbs and stuff. But the porter and pestle moves around by giant chicken legs that are attached to it, and her house is on top. And you're like, this is amazing. This is the jamboree of witches, and I love it. I want more.
Another version says that the lady had a husband who was an alcoholic, and she had to sew for a living in order to make ends meet to support a family. As is the case, unfortunately,
in Portugal. There's a lot of these stories about alcoholic husbands.
Unfortunately, yes.
These legends.
I don't know if that's the case still. I haven't lived there for a very long time, but
Portugal's still our biggest audience group outside the UK. Please stay.
Well, did you know that this year I will have lived in the UK for as long as I lived in Portugal. I lived in Portugal for 15 years of my life.
That's wild.
My first 15 years.
That is wild.
And this year, it's been 15 years since I moved to the UK.
That's nuts. You know, it's been almost 30 years I've lived in
the UK. Since
you
lived in the UK.
Yeah, since I lived in the UK. It's crazy how time just does that
to you. I know. Crazy. But yeah, so that's the other one, is that her alcoholic husband didn't support them, so she had to make a living out of
being a seamstress.
Being a seamstress, sewing.
Seamstress.
And however you say it. And she, even in death, she continued to sew. She never got the memo that she could rest.
Fair enough.
The last one.
She was on, like, she's on busy the entire time. She never got the Slack message or the Teams call.
Never got the message.
She's still waiting there. It's like the person who joins that Teams meeting like a week early because they didn't misread the thing, and just like everyone's now getting prompts.
Still sewing away. The last one, there's an actual story that I found.
Okay.
For which, so in Cuba, but not the Cuba that you know,
Cuba with a K?
No, Cuba as in
with a Q?
In Alentejo in Portugal.
Ah, okay.
Apparently there's a place called Cuba. I didn't even know that. So.
Interesting.
Let me know if it's true. I didn't actually research to see whether it was true, but according to this story, there is a place in Portugal called
Alentejo,
Cuba.
Not twinned with Cuba the nation.
Not to be confused with...
I went for cigars and I've had really good food instead. Ah!
So there was a young girl named Mariana who she was a seamstress. Surprise, surprise.
Do most of these legends start with a young girl called Mariana? Or Mary?
Mary. A lot of people, a lot of women in Portugal get the name Maria because it's a very common name.
Call out to your mum.
call out to my mum. But yeah, so she was a very good seamstress. Sorry, bear with me whilst I translate in real time from Portuguese to English in my head, and then out
verbally
out through my mouth. She would sew for a lot of people. That's how she made her living, going from house to house sewing things for people.
As she did.
Well, not me, but
as they used to do. Yes.
Yes. So she had a dream of one day owning. She did it by hand, by the way. She sewed by hand, and she had a dream of owning a
sewing machine.
A sewing machine.
The plot thickens.
Yes. And so whilst she was working, she would put away money to one day buy the sewing machine, which she eventually managed to. She worked so hard and so much that one day she went into her
store or something.
No, the little coin piggy bank.
Piggy
Jesus
bank?
Christ. Sorry. She went into her piggy bank and she found that she had enough money to buy the sewing machine.
Okay.
So she went to the store in Beja.
Mm-hmm.
She went to a store and bought the sewing machine.
No deal with the devil. Just this.
Not
This
thus
is a
far.
rags to riches sort of tale. I
Not
approve.
thus far.
I can get behind this girl. She had a dream and she's done it.
And she did it.
She did it.
Through the sweat of her brow.
Damn right.
And then eventually she fell sick.
Oh no.
She fell very sick. And she asked Our Lady to grant her health, and in exchange she would give her the one possession she owned that was of value.
Well, she'd give him the sewing machine and not just like...
She would give her the sewing machine that she worked so hard for.
You know what they say? Teach a man to fish, he'll fish for a lifetime. Give a saint a sewing machine, she'll make some radical crochets.
Evidently.
Crochet.
I don't know what a saint would do.
I can click my fingers and make this happen. This means nothing to me, but it means something to you. You sure it wasn't the devil? Like, I feel like that's more of a devil thing. Like, the saints are saints because they're like, okay, I'll do it out of my own sacrifice here. Not like the devil who's like, yo, I'll make you feel good.
No, I think in Portugal there's this thing where you promise saints things and you have to deliver. Otherwise, if you get what you want, you have to deliver. Like a lot of people promise things to Saint Anthony, particularly to do with relationships.
That kind of reminds me, there's like an episode of House or something where a guy promises to get himself crucified every year in response to his daughter no longer having cancer. Like, he promised to saint it. That would make... Alright, fair enough.
There you go. Anyway, so she promises to give her sewing machine if she gets better. Obviously, eventually she gets better. But she basically in a prayer, I guess, she explains to the saint that she needs the sewing machine to earn her living, because otherwise, how is she supposed to earn her living? So she promises the saint that on her deathbed, she will give the saint the sewing machine.
Somehow she'll pick it up and be like, yo,
thanks.
This here's yours. Unless she meant like, in my will, I'll drop this off if the angel will come at 6 after the hors d'oeuvres.
There's no details as to how she would do it.
She'll need that.
So she promises that on her deathbed she will give the saint her sewing machine, and the saint accepts.
Mm-hmm.
And on her deathbed, she asks a gentleman that helps her.
The handyman or something?
Yeah, something like that. She asks him to deliver it to the saint's altar, which is
this is like
in another location. Probably Fatima. And he, on the way, he decides to sell.
She's dying anyway. She ain't gonna know.
He decides to sell the sewing machine, make a profit, and then goes back and tells her... He went
and bought GME stock or something with it, Diamond Hand for life.
And tells her that he delivered it as promised.
I toasted the thing.
And as you can imagine, when she dies... The saint's like, turns to her, where the hell's my sewing machine?
This ain't... How could she have foreseen that this person...
So, according to legend, the saint forgives her.
Good, because that guy's the problem.
The saint forgives her, but the lady, the seamstress...
she does
not take it lightly.
Yeah.
And she spends the rest of her days going from house to house looking for him.
Pedro, you had one job.
You had one job, Pedro!
God damn it, Pedro!
Shout out to all the Pedros out there.
She's kind of like that. She's kind of sounds like Nicolas Cage from Vampire's Kiss, because you know there's a part in that, like throughout the whole movie, he's looking for this file and he's torturing his assistant essentially to find this file. But then he finds it, but he still, and like the client goes, "It's no fault. I don't actually care about the file anyway. It's all right." But he keeps being mad at her because she didn't find the file that he's now actively got. It's kind of like that, where she's like, it doesn't matter that she was forgiven by the saint. She's so mad at this dude. Yeah. He's like, nah, screw heaven. I'ma haunt this ass.
She is looking, she spends the legend has it that she spends the rest of her days going from house to house, searching for him. And the way she warns him that she's about is by the sound of her sewing machine. And
is that like, you know how in horror movies ghosts have like a shun noise, like a shun? Suddenly a ghost appears?
No, it's like the clickety clack of the sewing machine and the string.
I didn't realise the ghost had to give you like it was like a 5-second head start. They just turn
ready or not, here I come.
I'm coming. Oh shit.
I'm coming for you.
That movie, like It Follows, would be very different if they had to give you like a 5-minute like, hey. I'm here.
I'm on my way.
I'm within X meters of you. It's time to go.
Anyway, that's the last one. That's the full legend.
That's crazy.
That's the only one that there is a full-on story for. The other ones are just like word of mouth kind of thing.
Do we have time in the episode yet to talk about our top 5 favourite spooky paranormal spooks? What are the top 5 favourite creatures of Spooktacular legend?
Oh, Jesus. We have 15 minutes, so we should be alright for time. I don't know. You go first. Give me some ideas.
Okay. Well, alright. So for me, you can't beat the werewolf. Alright? The werewolf is just solid. It's something like all humanity... It kind of points back to this idea that all humanity, we're essentially just animals that learned how to like trick ourselves in believing that we're more than just animals, right? And the Wolfman is kind of like this unabashed like return to nature and how vicious that can be. And it's kind of scary. And you gotta love that sort of like idea and how it can be expressed. And a lot of the movies are pretty great. That for me is definitely up there. I think that you know what? I'm going to put that at number 1, actually. I don't think I'm going to have another thing that's better than that. That's number 1 for me. What about you? What's your number 1?
I think my number 1, we probably should have gone from 5 to 1, but okay.
Alright, 5 could be the most important for you.
I think number 1 for me would have to be clowns, just because of the...
But they're not supernatural.
Well, okay, does it have to be definitely supernatural then?
It has to be paranormal.
Okay, it has to be paranormal.
I would accept the answer of the clown from It. Because that is definitely a paranormal entity.
Yeah, but that's not really, like, that's someone's... I suppose all of these are someone's fiction, but yeah. What I mean is, like, it's not, like... It's not passed from person to person, it's just this one story about a clown that chases these kids.
But that's alright. You know what? I want to change my number 1. Okay, screw it. Wolfman number 5 now. I want to change my number 1 because you got me thinking about It. My number... Could you want to do a proper order now then?
I think we no longer care about order.
All right.
I think order is lost.
Eldritch horror.
We're linear random, damn it.
Linear random. Eldritch horror has got to be up there for me. Like the whole H.P. Lovecraft sort of stuff, where like there are things that are just so beyond us as humanity and so cosmic in their designs and intentions that to even comprehend a fragment of them would be to go insane. Like, that stuff's great for me. I love that sort of thing.
Well, on the back of that, in that case, I would have to say Loch Ness Monster, but not for the reason you think. Like, obviously, Nessie supposedly is not a very scary
It's just 3 humps.
being.
It's just 3 humps in a picture, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
But what I mean is, what I mean by that is the fact that there's a lot of creatures and a lot of things in the depths of the ocean that we might never know. We might never come to know because it's so vast and so deep that we might never know what's out there.
Another one in that sort of frame for me is like, I can't remember the proper name for them. I think it's like Skeggle or Skegly. It's a Celtic creature of legend, and here's how it works, right? It's a horse on land. It's a beautiful horse, like a stallion. And what it does is it's so beautiful and so powerful that everyone who sees it initially goes, I've got to tame that. I've got to get me some of that horse. So they run up to it. They put their hands on it to try and get on top of it. But then the horse's like skin envelops their hand and locks it in place.
Oh.
And then suddenly the horse like appearance starts changing because it's more demonic. But also like more aquatic as well, and it makes a beeline straight for the largest body of water nearby, and it dives in and it tries to drown
you.
Yeah, and that's how it does it. And like the people like you claim have seen it, like they've chopped off their own hands to escape it or something. Though admittedly, this is also supposedly became famous around a time when like thieves losing a hand for thieving was a thing, so maybe this was just a so there's a bloody load of skeggies running around up in Scotland.
I'm not a thief.
It was
just
bastard horse come and ate my hand.
Definitely not a thief.
Absolutely. But yeah, that for me, ocean stuff is pretty scary. But like that one's quite a cool one.
It's the unknown. But although there are also a lot of forests and stuff in land.
But we know so much about forests because we've killed like everything in a forest at least once now.
Pretty much. But like the ocean, there's just something so unknown about what's out there.
Oceans and the Antarctic.
Yes.
Because like we know quite a bit about things. Maybe caves as well, actually. Because we know quite a bit about like stuff where we've all been before. Humanity has explored and done all these areas, but we still don't know a massive amount about the very bottom of what's at the oceans, and all that stuff is like freaky and weird. It's like pure evolution down there.
Because there's literally no light down there, so it literally must be the weirdest of the weird shapes.
But that's the same reason like caves are super interesting. Like there was a cave in like Romania or Hungary. They broke down the wall to it by accident and found like an entire ecosystem completely separate from the entire rest of the world. Nothing in that cave makes like any sense. And they walled it off again and they study it, and it's super, super weird and interesting. But then the Antarctic is something I like, especially because of how little life is up there. It's so cold, almost nothing exists, even on a bacterial level. Millie, get away from the trees. But yeah, that Antarctic stuff like that is super, super cute. Alright, so that's two from me. Eldritch Horror and Wolfman. What about you? Because I thought vampires for you must be fairly high up on your list.
I think it's been ruined. I mean, Dracula is my favourite story. My favourite book. Not the movie. I hate the movie. Any of them. Any adaptations. Because the book is something so different. I can't... I've read a lot of books. I don't think I've ever read a book quite like Dracula.
It's written really weird as well, because a lot of it's just like journal entries.
Yeah, it's journal entries, letters, newspaper entries. It's literally a mashup of all these different documents. And it makes for such an interesting read. And there's no adaptation that satisfies me because obviously movies are going to be
they're going to cut out things and
and they're going to embellish and they're going to make it a love story and
doesn't necessarily work in like an adaptation to film or theatre as well.
And they're going to make it a love story between Mina and freaking Dracula. Of course they are.
He's sexy. He's a sexy boy.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be a villain. Anyway. But yeah, I think vampires in the later years have been ruined by Twilight and
other stuff like that.
Other
like Hollywood's need to impose certain story elements and
Vampire Diaries and all
What
that
about
stuff.
Frankenstein? Frankenstein's monster specifically.
Frankenstein has always felt more about humanity rather than a monster per se. It's always been more like humanity is the monster, as it were. It's Frankenstein. Frankenstein is the monster.
The monster is
Frankenstein's monster, or
is it
Frankenstein himself?
Is the monster just a reflection of humanity?
Exactly, like that's what it's supposed to be, isn't it? He said the monster says it himself. Like
everything I've learned from you and from humanity.
Yeah, like everything he is, every his personality, his actions, everything comes from what he's learned from observing humans.
Because Frankenstein, for me, the monster is up there. Just the idea of an undead creature that is also alive, and it's like this weird idea that seems like it's almost up there with eldritch horror, because the idea of something that can be both alive and human but not human is very potent. I think it harkens to something innate within like human fear.
Which is why zombies are so popular.
Absolutely.
And which is why they used to hang bells on
people's
graves.
Because there was one case of like a guy who got buried alive. Everyone went, nope, not doing that again. Nope, I'm not happening to me. Nope. Alright, so for me, Eldritch Horror, Wolfman, Frankenstein, I don't know if I've got any. Like, you've got aquatic sea creatures.
Whatever's swimming out there in the oceans.
Yeah. Giant 900-foot squid or something.
Which I'm sure are more than enough to cover all 5.
I need to tell you about. There's like a monster called from the SCP universe, and it's like this giant serpent that lives at the bottom of the ocean. It's like 300 kilometers in length, and the thing is, what makes it terrifying is it doesn't actually eat you; it eats your consciousness. It might swallow you whole, but it doesn't actually consume you. It just consumes the thing that gives you sentience, essentially. Yeah. And that stuff is, like, super terrifying.
Well, for me, the spookiest things are, like, based in reality. So, like, ghosts of real people. Like the whole woman in white thing. You know, like, clowns. Things like that. Those are my real spooks, are the ones that are based in real life.
Okay, fair enough.
Because nothing is quite as scary as someone coming at you.
Yeah, see, I'm with you there, but I'm also more of like... So you're more like the real life is scary enough. You don't need none of the supernatural stuff. Yeah. I like real life is real life cruelty and scariness is like banal and boring. I like the supernatural stuff. And I guess that's where we'll just have to agree to disagree on that.
Yeah. I think that's where we'll be ending the episode as well.
So, first episode done, and I'm feeling real
spooked. Tick.
Top spooky motherfuckers. We're coming for you next.
I think next up, we agreed on crime.
Oh, we'll do crime one. Yay! Can I bring up like the stupidest crimes ever?
You can.
Yes, I love it. I've got a whole book for him.
I will try to bring some as well, although I'm not sure there's a lot that I can draw on, particularly from Portugal. I'm not sure what I can find, but I'm sure my family and other people will help me by sending me examples, please.
Yeah, by the way, we're not sponsored. We don't sell merch, but if you want to sponsor us, please do. Contact details found on our YouTube channel.
If you want to send us topics for future episodes, feel free.
Hell yeah.
We generally want to do like a general topic, and then we will both do as little research as possible and just chat for an hour about whatever comes to mind.
Absolutely. I've been Markeen.
And I've been Anna, and
this has been Linear Random. I'll never be that cool again.